Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a chilly Tuesday evening. This is Carlton Live. I'm Trevor Wallard, and my co-host is John Rowe. We're very pleased to join you, and thank you for tuning in on a chilly Tuesday evening. Just joining us for the first time, we are a live Facebook fan show, which started off as a little radio show, but we've upgraded to live Facebook, and we're just a couple of guys who love our footy and love talking footy to you guys as well. So if you're joining us for the first time, thanks very much. We'd love to interact with you. So feel free to throw us some questions or comments, which you can do through the on-screen comment section below, and we'll definitely try and have that talked about this evening. Good evening to you, John, mate. Another loss. It's getting a bit depressing. I'm having to resort to the hard stuff.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Cheers to you all. Look, it's been 3 tough weeks, hasn't it? But we haven't been, completely blown out of the water. We'll get into a bit of the reasons why in the last game, and probably a little bit of that flows over to the Port game as well. I think we touched on last week that Tigers were always a tough chance. Because they're such a good team. The other two were gettable. We'll go into why that is and have a look forward to the Gold Coast game and see where we can match up.
That's it. Like I said, if you're just joining us, thank you very much. We're live. We're unscripted. We're unashamedly biased. We're alcoholics. You name it. That's us. We love talking footy, and we appreciate you joining us. Little show here, and it's all about you guys as well, because your contribution definitely makes the show. Couple of hellos already. Thanks for joining us, Jackson Toro from downtown Ararat. Dominic Fiore. G'day, Dominic. Thank you very much. Love your profile pic there, mate. Wayne Aslett. G'day, Wayne. Thank you for joining us on a Tuesday night. All these people obviously got nothing else better to do like us, John. Luke Summers, thank you very much, Luke, for joining us. Our resident Carlton bot, Andrew Lake, is with us tonight. We'll hopefully convince Andrew to come on live at some stage. Tonight might be your night, Andrew. We need your input at some stage. So let us know if you want to join us. We'd love to have you on board. Terry Degani, g'day, Terry. Hopefully we can have you on board at some stage again tonight. Clinton Butt McKay, thank you, Clinton, for joining us. Good evening, and good evening to all of our valued viewers. Lots to talk about, John. We sat here last Tuesday night pretty buoyant about an opportunity to get over the Swans, who hadn't started the year off with a lot of form. But and then, of course, after the first quarter, we're thinking, hello, this could be on again. But typical Carlton fashion, we went missing again. Let's start off with selection. We had a big debate about that Tuesday night. How did you see the selection pan out?
Yeah, I think selection's killed us the last 2 weeks. You're really behind the 8 ball, with the selection that we've had going into the games. We talked last week about how, and before the game as well, about how we really needed to get 2 ruckmen in against Port Adelaide, because they absolutely ended up destroying us in the ruck there. And by not picking 2 rucks, we're immediately behind the 8 ball now. In the game against Sydney, how long have they been a tough-bodied, contested ball-winning beast of a team that gets them into finals, for 19 of the past 20 years or something? And we go in with very skinny body midfielders, particularly at the start. It was a real opportunity missed to bring in the likes of Kennedy and Jay Sauce with the bigger bodies to really add some contested pressure to Sydney. And they absolutely destroyed us, particularly around the ground, destroyed us in contested ball. And they just ran off and got it down to their forwards, but just very, very easily. I think that's one of the big contributing factors to it.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Selection for us, and we talked about it a lot on Tuesday night. I said if March Beck was fit that he should be played, and that's what happened. did like the selection of Levi coming in to replace Charlie and to act as that second ruck. As we know, and we'll talk about Harry later on the show, his performances so far have been a shining light for the last 3 weeks. So having Levi come in and also fulfill a little bit of a roll up forward was good, I thought. But to bring in again Paulson and to leave Cunningham to leave Kennedy on the sidelines was I think a big mistake. And interesting to hear why he didn't get a game this week, but he would have been very, very handy amongst those Sydney mids.
Yeah, absolutely. Just even to put a bit of pressure on someone like a Kennedy or a Parker or something. Just get in there and just at least stop the contest if they're starting to run away with it. But anyway, we're not on the selection committee, but I think that I was really disappointed with the selections. Albeit Levi did very, very well, but Lockie O'Brien was a real mystifying pick for me. Great footballer, but we have to get it to the outside for him to be dangerous, and we can't get it to the outside if we're playing smaller bodies against a big team. It's nothing against SPS, nothing against Fisher, nothing against Walsh. They're all going to be fantastic footballers, but they're not big hulks, are they? They're not that body size. And Setterfield it's only his 3rd game, for the club, and his 5th game in total, and he needs a lot of work before he's able to take on that big body role. So what I want to see going forward is the wall. I want to see Cripps, Kennedy, and Setterfield form the wall, and then you have the guys like SPS, Fisher, Walsh, and perhaps Lockie O'Brien on the outside delivering the ball in. And I think that is the winning combination right there.
Yeah, just quickly on selection, and you're right, we aren't the selectors, even though maybe we should be, especially if they tune in on Tuesday night, they'll get a real good insight into how the team should shape up. But it's a little bit mystifying that the players that they're bringing up, and whether it's horses for courses or whether it's on form, and clearly it's just all over the place. Internally, I hope that they've communicated what the selection formula is and methodology for getting a game. Back in the old days, it was you didn't play well, you came out, and the next bloke came in. And that was as pretty simple as it was. Nowadays, there's all sorts of computations and permutations that seem to be going on. It's like throwing darts at the dartboard at the moment with Carlton selection criteria, and again, mixed messages. And I don't mind bringing people like Marchbank in. He's in our best 22, but then what I think as the supporters, we'd like to hear a little bit more about justifications for certain players, why they've dropped them. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'd like to hear a little bit more from them about that.
Yeah, it's a bit too cloudy, isn't it? We need a little bit of direction. I just wonder too if we picked a little bit on this for the Swans game in retrospect of what we should have picked for the Port Adelaide game. Are we working a week backwards and not looking at the game in front of us a bit? I don't know, just throw that up as a question. But that's what we've got to be picking. And I go back to what I said last week is we've got to get to a stage where we've got our best 30 and pick for the team that we're playing. One, that we can match up on them, and two, what gives us a competitive advantage.
That's it. Thank you, John. If you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, this is Carlton Live. We, as you can tell, they're live or unscripted, definitely unorganised, unplanned. We're having a couple of quieties as usual, and I hope you are at home enjoying your cold Tuesday night. Really appreciate you joining us. We love talking with you guys, and you guys make the show. Just a couple of shout-outs and a few questions while we're going through them. Julian Rose, good evening, Julian. Nathan Kaleja, good evening to you. Spiros Vlahos, love the show. Thank you very much. Jackson Taro, Cripps is the biggest body in the comp. Big call, but there's only one of him. We need another 18 of him, unfortunately.
Yeah, Jackson, I do agree with you, but yeah, like as Trevor says, we can't just have one of them in there. We can't just have him holding the whole inside midfield, by himself, particularly against a team like the Swans.
Hello to Dan Williams, who got smashed in the contest. Last time I saw a smashing like that, it was watching my Nana make elderberry wine. Very good call, Dan. Thank you very much for that, our resident comedian. Maybe we can get you on the show later on to contribute. Already, if you've seen our page earlier on, you'll see Dan's fantastic work in regards to his selection for this week, using some technology that we don't hear or understand here on Carlton Live. But check out his selection. It's the stuff. It's really cool stuff. Jazza Blake, sorry for being late, fellas. Was finishing up on some dishes. Well, there's a way to make all us blokes feel inadequate doing the dishes. Good stuff, mate. But thanks for joining us. Matt Valeri, evening, boys. I think we let ourselves down with some of our positioning at the contest and where we kicked the ball to a one-on-one like to the side of the contest. Our teammate is on. Good point, Matt. Something we'll probably delve into a little bit later on. John, I know you want to have a discussion about our game plan or what it is or lack thereof. Some of that stuff is good food for thought when we get to that.
And I want everyone's opinion on that.
Yeah, and that's what we'll talk about later on. Is our game plan? What is it? Have you identified anything? John and I, well, certainly me. I'm not putting myself up there as an expert at the game, and it's a little bit too hard to see it unfold on Foxtel as well as where I sit in level one. But a few people might have seen my interpretation of our game plan during I think yesterday I put it up, which was side to side all over the place and seemed to not worry about going in the centre of the ground. So maybe that is our game plan, and maybe I've hit it on the head there. Okay, John, let's kick it off with part of our agenda, and you're going to tell us hopefully where we lost this game.
Yeah, we've talked about selection already, and that sort of bleeds into the next point of we really played with 3 men down. Mitch McGovern went off at halftime, didn't come back on. He didn't have a massive impact on the game anyway, apart from that miraculous goal in the second quarter. And just while I'm on it, that second quarter was very reminiscent of the second quarter against Port Adelaide, where we just really switched off and just lost all our momentum that we had in the first quarter, where we started double guessing. We started doing what you quite rightly put in that diagram of yours, is chipping it around everywhere and not actually taking it down the guts and having a real go, which we were doing in the first quarter, and we're really catching them unawares. But McGovern down, and then you've got both Gibbons and my little mate, brains fading, been a long day.
Fisher.
Sorry?
Fisher.
No, not Fisher, my other little mate.
Okay.
Forward pocket that everyone hates.
Paulson.
Yeah. They had minimal possessions. I think Gibbons had 1 possession at 3/4 time and had 3 possessions in the last quarter when it was all junk time. They had 1 tackle each and just absolutely no impact on the game. So that's really 3 players down that you've got, and you've got to try and cover that as a team. And you're not going to cover that against a team like the Sydney Swans. So unfortunately, Paulson, my little mate, I think he's back to the twos this week. He really needs to go and find some football and really learn more about his craft of the small forward. I wouldn't write him off. I love his pressure normally, but it was just non-existent against the Swans. And Gibbons, again, are just completely non-existent. So that was a big area, big hole for us to fill with 3 players in that second half. That then leads into tackles, which is another reason why we lost the game. So 5 of our forwards, that's Gibbons, Paulson, Casbolt, Harry, I think it was, and McGovern, all had a total of 2 tackles between them. That is just disgusting. your whole game plan is based around keeping it in the forward line. In amongst those 5 players, you get 2 tackles for an entire game of football. You're never going to win a game of football doing that in the way it's currently played. It's just not good enough. And I think Bolton would have been fuming at that statistic at the end of the game, like I was when I saw it on afl.com.au. It's just simply not good enough.
Yeah, we talked about it at Platform 28 after the game when you'd had about 17 schooners and you're in fine form, that you might not be getting possessions, you might be getting goals, but there's one thing you can do as a small forward, and that is tackle and keep the pressure on. Not only weren't tackling, it just seemed to me they weren't getting in the right spots. If our game plan does revolve around non-overuse of the footy to try and get it into those players quickly, then it's absolutely imperative that those guys are there front and centre. A smart player like Ed Curnow, and Ed's reinventing himself every week as a forward player, a smart footballer. He knows where those spots are. It seems to me that Gibbons should really know that role. But for whatever reason, they're just not doing it, and certainly not backing it up with that pressure. Ashley Warren makes a good point. We were supposed to be defined by pressure. That is a big call and a good reminder that that's one of the mantras that Bolton spits out every week about being defined by pressure. I really haven't seen that for 3 weeks in terms of our tackle counts. It's something that if they're going to be defined by that, maybe they should just go and reinvent that line.
Yeah, well, if you're going to be defined by that, make it a key performance indicator. So Paulson, Gibbons, you need to go back to the 2s, and I want to see you get 7 to 10 tackles for the next 3 games, and then you'll get a look at selection again. Otherwise, not interested.
That's true. Okay, we'll have a bit more of analysis shortly, but going to some comments. Alex Thompson said, "Hope Lang is back next week. We need a small forward. What happened to Faz?" Lang, well, I don't think Lang will go back straight into the seniors, although you never be surprised with Carlton's selection. Faz was dropped.
He needs a lot of football.
I think
he missed half of last year as well. Missed all of the pre-season, and he needs a lot of football.
Yeah, and there's a few ahead of him. Julian Rose says we need Cunningham back. Look, just again disappointing because Cunningham was showing a bit of form. He was quite lively up forward. He got a few goals in the first few weeks, so disappointing when he went down.
But we've got to have someone who can take that role.
Yeah. Well, there's players that can take that role, and I think that what the selection committee needs to do is just keep turning them over until they decide that they can find a player that's wanting to dig in there and if they're not kicking goals to put the pressure on and make sure they're not letting it out of their sight.
That's how Paulson kept getting the gig last year because he was doing that. He wasn't getting the touches. He was getting a sporadic goal, but his pressure was enormous.
Some interesting news here. It might be a breaking story thanks to Dane Rawlings. Walsh re-signing for another 2 years. Best news of the week. A bit of gossip at the moment. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if Carlton have had discussions with him or are not having discussions with him. That would be very, very silly not to. And I wouldn't be surprised, not official as yet, but you've heard it second here on Carlton Live. Thank you to Dane Rawlings for bringing that up. It'll be fantastic news because his first 3 weeks have been pretty good, and his delivery, his composure. The players out there that have played 40, 50 games that just haven't got that, and they should be looking over their shoulder to see how he just his composure and his delivery, especially into the forward line.
Yeah, I agree. His work rate was just incredible. He just kept going and going and going for 4 quarters. He lost a contest, didn't dip his head and start going into his shell, which I think Dow did once he chopped the ball a couple of times. He just kept working and working and working and working, and that's just terrific. You can't ask for any more as a first-year player, as a 3-game player.
Yep. Glenn Smith says Gibbons must have a run in the twos. Yes, I'm with you there. I think he'll get a run. I think you'll probably see someone like JSOS have a crack this week. Heath Buck, g'day Heath, thanks for joining us. Will Hayward for the Swans is having more of an impact than McGovern, and the Swans lost him, so losing McGovern was no excuse. Yeah, I think in terms of our setup and structure, McGovern for us is probably more important for us, given the fact that we can't score at all. It was something that we missed. We only had Harry left, and really that was our only tall timber up there, with Levi going up the ground a bit higher. But interesting call there. We just need to kick goals, and we need McGovern firing out there. Hopefully he will be back this week.
You're right, Heath. Will Hayward was very good.
He was great.
He had a great game.
Yeah, and they probably would have won by more. Okie dokie. What else have we got? Joseph Alani. Sure, the door will shut on Casbolt. How many chances the bloke can get? I thought he performed okay. He crashed packs. He took a few grabs. That goal he missed in the last quarter could have been an interesting get should have that gone through. But I thought he was actually okay. Selection will be again interesting this year with Cruz back. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I thought Casbolt played well. He presented very well and did some very timely things. And that kick was in the first or third quarter that he just waited perfectly over the top to someone running to a flank, who then marked the ball and kicked the goal. Was just genius. I haven't seen him have touched like that, I don't think, ever before. It was just very, very clever kick. So good on him. Not sure he keeps a spot, as you say, with Cruiser coming back, because Cruiser will just ruck all day. Doesn't need any help.
Christian Chapcoon, as good as Walsh has been, does it really show the likes of SPS, Fish, Dow, O'Brien, who have really only shown their best in patches as opposed to consistently? Very good point, Christian.
Well, SPS and Fisher, like I mentioned earlier, were played out of position. They're trying to play in an under football, against Hulks. They should be playing, outside on a wing, and then, diving in to help out now and then to do the inside work. But to be, and Walsh in this as well, to be hitting a bit for the inside mids along with Cripps. It's just, they just got ragdolled.
They still have been inconsistent though. As has the whole team, really.
Well, Walsh was our second best player. I
think the point is Walsh is our second best player after coming straight into the 18s. What does it say for those kind of guys like Fish and Dow and SBS who have shown patches of brilliance, to be honest, but just haven't brought it for a whole few weeks on end, or even a whole game on end in some cases?
I'd much rather look at it the other way and say, what does it say about Sam Walsh? He could be once in a generation footballer where you can come into senior football, have an immediate impact, and be one of the club's best players. That doesn't happen. But maybe it says more about him than it does the other players who need that time to get used to AFL football.
Okie dokie. Before we get into another feature we've got on the show, which is a new opportunity for our guests to join us live on the show, which is something that's pretty cool. If you want to join the conversation, you can live. You need a webcam, you need a microphone, you need to be clothed, and probably you need to be having a quiet bevy or two, as John and I do. So I'll put the link up shortly. One thing I'd like to put to you and the audience is, and of course there's lots of comments going around that it's the same old, we're losing, and obviously that's correct. Are you seeing improvement, and that improvement, is that outweighing your need or desire to see a win? And how important is a win for you over and above seeing that improvement?
Oh, wins priority. We need to do everything possible, including selection, to get that happening, because that just reaffirms everything that you've been doing, that we're on the right track. as a team. Individually, the players can say, right, what I'm doing is correct. There's then faith in coaches. And I've got to say, too, a million times that it is a coaching team and it is a management team that we've got at Carlton now. It's not one person like it was with Mick Malthouse. It's a complete team. So we shouldn't be, hauling one particular person, in this case Bolton, over the coals, because there's a lot of people involved now. But, it's absolutely imperative just to get confidence, a win now. And we've got the next 2 weeks where we've got 2 more chances. Trevor's gone on us to get those wins. We're a chance against the Gold Coast, and we're a chance against Footscray as well, who have been playing good football, but also, didn't have the greatest year last year. And we could take them to town if we need to. Absolutely imperative for the confidence of everyone around the club to get that win. Have I seen improvement? Yes. You have a look at Big H as the leading example. I mean, he's massive improvement on where he has been. His contested ball, I think he just broke a record or something, didn't he, for the first 3 rounds of amount of contested marks that he had. I think SPS has improved and just played out of position the last 2 weeks. Fisher has probably levelled a bit, but he had such a breakout year last year I'm fine with that. You could go around the whole ground, but I think we're still settling into the positions that we've got. Our forward line, and I mentioned this a number of occasions last week. Our forward line in round 1 against the Tigers was 6 players different to the forward line in round 1, 2018 against the Tigers. So it's just getting that consistency.
Yeah, no, good call. I think it's 3 rounds in. It's not 100% panic stations yet. We all want to see wins. There's a lot of impatient Carlton fans, and so be it. We've been promised a few different things. For me, there's so much improvement that I've seen. It's not funny. And the team that we put on the park last year would have been smashed around the paddock for these first 3 weeks. So I think there's lots of improvement. I think the wins will come. I think there's a bit of tweaking to do with the side, and there's definitely a lot of output needed amongst our bottom 4 or 5 players to make sure that we do win. But it's not like we're sitting here saying we're hopeless and we're no good and there's no signs of anything positive, because especially in the last 2 games we've had opportunities to win. It's just that other team have been better and we haven't performed to our max, and there's been some underperforming players.
I reckon we could have knocked off Tigers as well if we had played that last quarter out and hadn't capitulated in that first quarter like we did. We came home with a wet sail, and we were every chance to knock them off too. So yeah, I'm with you. It's not back to the doom and gloom that we were in the Malthouse days, where you just couldn't see where the next win was coming from. You didn't see improvement. Players were going backwards. They were not interested. They were not following the coach. It's a complete opposite of what we've got now, except for the W column. Now I just want to answer a question here. It's been asked probably about 3 or 4 times from different people. I'm sorry I haven't got to it. LeBoyce is injured again. I'm not sure of the extent of his injury. I saw him at Punt Road a couple of weeks ago in the tracksuits and looking very downtrodden. I'm not sure if he'll get a game for Carlton. There's so many players ahead of him. He's injured. He needs a lot of football under the belt to go to seniors. He'll be delisted at the end of the year. So just write him off, I think, at this stage.
Okay, Robert Dangerfield says, hey, lads, have to drop Paulson, Casbolt, Gibbons and bring in Jesus, Cruz, Kerr, and anyone know about Tom Williamson? Agree with Paulson. I think Casbolt gets another shot this week. Gibbons, I think, is gone. Jesus possibly in. Kerr, I think if you be playing him for the sake of giving him a crack. And Tommy Williamson, I'm pleased to report, will be playing his first game next week and will be back hopefully to full strength.
Will he play out of Geelong, do you think, Willow?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Heath mentions we're going to talk about list management. Look, I don't know about being an elephant in the room. I think there's no question that our list has been the best it's really ever been, and still got certainly some work to do. But possibly start talking where our list's at if we're 0-12. But it's more about, for me, the management of the list and getting the best out of the young blokes that we can get out. Okay, let's join in another guest to the show, which we have on standby. He's in the green room, and we've seen him over the last few weeks, and he's back to join us again. And we welcome all the way from Israel, Terry Degani. Good evening, Terry, or good morning to you. How are you?
Very well, lads. Just past the stroke of 1 p.m. here, so we're starting to align with the time difference.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? Once we go out of daylight saving and Europe and the Middle East goes into it, it becomes a hell of a lot closer. I deal with London and Paris all the time, and it's just a nightmare when it's daylight saving here.
5:45 a.m. Not great.
Yeah.
You had a few quiet ones on the
11
weekend.
p.m. meetings.
What's that, Trev?
You had a few quiet ones on the weekend?
I had quite a few loud ones on the weekend, actually. We had our first ever Tel Aviv derby with the newly born South Tel Aviv Dragons football team that I've got together with a bunch of guys and got our first win.
Congratulations on that. Congratulations.
Yeah. So we had a great Friday afternoon / night and had to get up early in the morning for a 5:45 a.m. Carlton bounce. And so, yeah.
Is that the reason you're on the waters today?
Yeah, absolutely on the waters, mate. Yeah, we'll be waters for the week just so we can the body doesn't quite recover like it used to.
I did mention that part of the criteria for joining us on the show was to be partaking in a couple of quiet bevies, but I didn't have in mind the water, so you might have to try and sneak out to the bar. It's only one. I know it's 1 o'clock, but still.
Well, it's 8 p.m. somewhere.
8 p.m. somewhere. Well, we usually say it used to be 12 p.m. somewhere.
So you've got to always tip Carlton and you've always got to have a frothy. Got it.
Correct. You're starting to learn. Just before we get into a few comments from you, Terry, let's get to our valued audience. Brad Fankhauser. Brad says, hope Jack gets a spot this week. Will show passion, effort that will lift the boys around the ground, give him a chance. I think he'll probably get a spot this week, even though there was no performance or no game this week. And I haven't really heard much about him into the game squad. And probably on the weekend, I think, but he'll get a crack. It will provide a bit more versatility and hopefully some polish. Chris Brighter says positives. I've seen this already. SBS, Harry, Wheatering, and Dow. Yes, 100%. Especially Wheaters. He's been fantastic. Harry, I saw during the week something like the most contested possessions after 3 rounds. Terry, did you see that stat?
Yeah, 15 contested marks through the first 3 rounds, which is a record. So, yeah.
Loving what he's doing. Bit concerned with his goal kicking. Seems to be a bit laconic for me. You saw the Swans start their game with 5-0, and they just went back and had a real honest, proper set shot at goal, whether Harry looks like he's out on a Sunday morning playing kick-to-kick with his mates when he's kicking for goal.
Yeah, he seems to lean back a little bit on his set shot, but I mean it's early days. Hopefully he can perfect the technique.
He did a lot of work in the off season. They spent a lot of time with him, and I think the laying back is not good. But I think he was, sort of working more on becoming a little bit more relaxed on his kicking rather than, stressing about it too much. And he was getting the results. So I think there's a bit of a balance there.
Another few comments. Jackson Toro, who is a brilliant analytical football mind and is a handy footballer himself. I can attest to that. I think Carlton need to get better at winning one-on-ones and finding a better, quicker brand of footy, but also holding on to the pill. That last point you make in terms of holding on to the pill, I'm really strong on. Particularly, we've got those running players that can do it. They can run and hold on to the pill. So 100% agree with you there. A quicker brand, well, it's pretty quick at the moment, but it just seems to be the wrong brand. I just think the fact that they're delivering the forward line is just really kicking hope and thinking that those small forwards we had were going to do the job. So I'm hoping that they can just drop their eyes a bit, do the delivery like get the delivery happening like Murphy and Walsh and Cripps when they get the ball and just drop their eyes and look for some leading players. That's my take on that. Okay, let's boys get into your best players on the weekend against Sydney. Over to you, Terry.
My best. It was tough because I picked 3 when I do my votes, and one was always going to be unlucky. So I had Cripps with the 3. I had Jones with the 2 because he seems to cop a lot, and I wanted to give him some acknowledgement there. And I gave Ed Curnow with the 1 because 19 touches, 4 goals for a guy that copped a bit of flack last week as well. So obviously Walshy is unlucky to miss out there, but those were the best 3 for me.
How did you see our best players, John?
Yeah, look, definitely Cripps and Walsh, 1 and 2. Edward, to kick 4 goals in a team that, what are we kicking in, 10 or something, is pretty good return. So he's going to be up there in votes. Jones did well against Franklin and kept him to 2 goals or 3 goals or something like that. And the way that ball was coming in with such speed that he did extremely well. His shutdown speed on Franklin was excellent and did a great job. But he had tremendous help with Wiedering too, who made him look extremely good as well. The problem is that we forgot that there was a guy called Isaac Heaney sitting in the back going, "Yep, thank you, yoink."
Yeah. Johnny, you're a bit low. I think you need to sit on a cushion. We can't see your buff head. That's better.
I'll tilt the camera.
And Terry, you should go down a lot more because you're making us look way too. Or maybe trying to get
just trying to get the sponsors in there, boys.
Oh, as you should, and especially with your hair and makeup and lighting department. You've got your own hair, makeup, and lighting department, so that's putting us to shame as well.
I've got it all sorted here.
So if you can spare any of that budget, I'm drinking some off Jack Daniel's whiskey and Coke tonight, so that's how good my budget's tracking. Give us your best and fairest, or give your best for the weekend out there, please, to our viewers. For me, yes, Cripper, and funny little thing, obviously we all saw with him having that player on his back and still dishing off the handball, carrying our players and the Sydney Swans players. That was a pretty cool moment in the game. Look, I'm going to put Jonesy up there for the 2. I think really played really well. He plays every week like it's his last game, and maybe some of the other players should put that endeavour out there. And I think we would probably be 3 and 0 instead of 0-3 if they're all putting the effort in that Jonesy's doing. Incidentally, it's his 50th game last week. I just saw the club put up a little bit of a snippet from him. Really liked what he had to say about his time at Carlton and the fact that he really appreciates the opportunity to play with the club. So it was really nice to hear from him that coming up to 50 games.
Yeah, they put up a highlight reel too. It went for 23 seconds.
Tough crowd.
I can hide you, John. I can hide you, John. You know that. I can actually cut your food, mate.
Did anyone hear crickets?
Now I've hidden myself. Now I've gone missing. Can you hear me or stop seeing me? Okay.
All right, we still on?
Yep. If you still got me.
All good.
Okay, have you got me? I don't know if I'm sure if I'm still here. Can you see me, Johnny? I'm not sure if I'm still on.
I can see and hear you. Yeah.
Okay,
whether the viewers can.
Okay, that's okay. Probably better if they can't. Okay, John, you put up a little bit of an agenda earlier on. We probably should cover off some of that. Harry McKay, how good can Harry get?
Yeah, well, fix his goal kicking. You know, he's going to be a 4 or 5 goal per game player. The way he's going at the moment, contested marking is sensational, and he had, for most of the game, he had 2 players against him, and Aaliyah was very, very good. He's just getting better and better and better. I don't know what his ceiling is. That was more of a question than I knew how to answer.
I'll say to you this, Terry, is McKay gone ahead of Charlie?
I think it's a bit early for that. I think Harry's in this beautiful phase of his career where it's almost like, all right, here's the keys, and not so many expectations on you, and you can sort of see in the way that he just plays freely and he plays on instinct. He's got some things that he's got to work on, but it's tough to say that he's gone ahead of Charlie. Charlie's probably had that year last year where he was just sort of go for it and express yourself. So, look, it's great to have both of them. Really looking forward to seeing the 2 of them playing together, obviously alongside with Mitch. We need to get the 3 of them gelling as soon as possible.
We need to get the ball out properly first and delivered.
Yeah.
It'll make them all look good.
Yeah.
Kayla Anderson says, love Harry. He is doing well. I actually saw his brother in the crowd during the game, and I just gave him a casual question of any chance to see him out there alongside his brother. And that was a cheeky little wink he gave me. So that'd be interesting to see if we could have both of the twins at bookends. If that ever happened, that'd be pretty cool. Did he play his first game last week, his brother, for the Kangas, or has he played a couple of games now?
He's played a few. Yeah.
Okay. That'd be interesting having the twins at bookends. Another person I saw in the stand was Charlie Curnow, and I took my daughter along. She's a big Carlton fan, of course, even though she's 4, but she loves Charlie Curnow, and we went to get a photo, and of course, what did she do? She didn't like it very much at all, and the photo came out really, really bad. She didn't smile, but we'll have to get Charlie again. Hopefully he can come back this week as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got another spot on the live panel. If you'd like to join us, I'm going to put up a link there. So you'll see a link in the comments. As I mentioned to you, if you want to join us live on the show, all you need is a webcam. You need a microphone, and preferably you're going to have a drink with us as well, because that's what it's all about on a Tuesday night, a good excuse to have a few beers, or in my case, a few when I'm drinking Jack Daniels. And talk footy with you guys, and talk Carlton, of course. And we're unashamedly biased. So make sure you mention you realise that you come on board when you join us on the shows. We'd love to have you. Just click the link, and you can join us live on the show as well. Terry, we touched a little bit on our game plan, or lack thereof, or non-existent, or not able to understand. Have you got any insight or have you sort of picked up anything as to some patterns in our game plan?
Your little picture that you drew was pretty spot on, Trev. I thought that was good work. Obviously said it before, but a little bit limited on my end because I'm only watching from a stream, so I can't really see what's happening, down the field. It just looks like at times we're trying to push it through the midfield and get some overlap run, but ultimately not really. I'll be honest. It's not like I'm looking at the games and saying to myself, "Gee, that's different." So is that coaching? Is that players devoid of confidence? I'm not really sure, but to answer your question pretty bluntly, I don't really see a massive difference in what we're doing, to be honest.
Is it time to get out the whiteboard, John, or is it just hanging there in the background, ready to come out?
I've got some notes on there for tomorrow, so I don't want to wipe them off. Yeah, look, what I need
and your internet banking password, I hope.
Sorry, say it again.
And is your internet banking password on there as well? Because I can see it just in the back there.
Oh, shit. What I want to impress upon everyone is what we're seeing with this particular style that we're playing is not at all what we were coached and what we practiced during the off-season. I went to many training sessions, and it was not to play down the line and then, smash it over the line and reset, which was a bit of the Mick Malthouse era. It was really to move the ball around from side to side and to get the opposite team to create a bit of a gap, whether it be over one particular wing, whether it be in the centre or the other particular wing, and then move it as quickly as possible. I think we started to do that against Sydney, but as soon as we started missing targets, we started missing goals, didn't take our opportunities. It's a big psychological thing, and we really went back into our shells, and we sort of started taking the safe option. All credit to Sydney, that had a lot to do with the pressure that they put on as well. But we didn't really do what we practiced during the off season. So it's definitely not a coaching thing. It's probably a to the minute how the players have responded to how the game is going. Now, on that, what we don't do, because Cripper is the golden boy, if that had been Murphy captaining that day, there would have been a lot of criticism on him for sort of, okay, we need to take stock, we need to hold the ball up for a while, we need to chip it around, and we need to retain possession of the ball until we can work our way through. And that was not happening. We were doing those rush kicks down the line that are either getting marked or just run straight back out down the other end for goals. There needed to be that guidance and leadership out there, which was lacking.
Look, in order to play that game plan that we think we want to see, and that is using the middle more often and taking the game on a little bit, we really need the players to be having a more defensive mindset. And as we've already talked about so far this tonight, in terms of tackling, in terms of one-on-one play, is it a fear, Terry, that we don't want to try and do too much and take on too much because we haven't necessarily got the skilled players to pull that kind of ball play off, and then the games might be blown out a little bit more, lack of the attention on the side as a whole, losing games, blowing games out. Do you think that's a fear and a mindset thing that they might not be trying to do that so early?
Yeah, I think so. For me, there's 2 points. On the one hand, we've still got players, midfielders who are relatively young, trying to, you can tell that they're still trying to find their feet in a sense. Whereas if you look at Sydney, they've got guys who can make in-game adjustments. They've got a lot of experience, a lot of big games, a lot of big finals. So there's that element for me. Then the other element is also, our senior players, the Daisies, the Murphs, the Simos, just haven't quite been able to really take the lead when games are sort of in the balance. And Murphy had a few good moments. He did have a 22 and a goal, and he set up some good play, but probably just not enough from what we needed. And, a guy like Simo, who last year was having games where he had, 35 touches and whatnot, to have him with 12 possessions, those type of games, it's one of those two things for me that I'm noticing. And I think in both areas they've got to lift, the young boys and the senior guys. And I just think we found ourselves, particularly in that second quarter, lacking in someone to just settle us. I mean, it's an easy one. I mean, looking for Sam Doherty back there to just, steady the ship. But, yeah, I just haven't quite seen our senior guys really step up and lead us forward yet.
Yeah, I think there's a big psychological element to not just our team, but footy in general. We've seen mixed results, and we've seen mixed results already so far this year about teams, knocking off other teams that they supposedly are better at. You know, we've seen it last year with teams losing. So I think there's a massive psychological element these days to footy. And again, particularly with our players and our young players, you know, I think so far it's been so good. You know, so far so good with our mindset. It's still positive. We've been in games. For us, I think, you know, if we can get in front by 2 or 3 goals of a team, I think we've got maybe that impetus and that mindset that we'll be able to go on with it and try and, you know, play a little bit more freely and to play a little bit more with flair and run and carry to try and hold that rather than defensively minded. So I think, you know, the signs are still there. I don't think it's panic stations yet. It's not to take the coach just yet. It's let's just hold our breath and try and maybe reanalyze things after the next, you know, 3 weeks. Got a good opportunity this week. Some people are comparing us to the Gold Coast and to Brisbane. Do you think that's fair, John, in their development?
I don't think that Brisbane, you would see the same amount of turnover as we've had. So they've got a little bit more stability. But certainly Gold Coast, you know, they've basically done what we've done, you know, flushed out all the crap and started again. So, yeah, similar stages. I haven't seen a Gold Coast game, so I'm not sure how they're playing, but they're winning. So good on them. But, yeah, I think Brisbane are playing some pretty good football at the moment, which I don't think we're far off doing.
Terry, do you think it's a fair comparison with us, Brisbane and Gold Coast, or should we wait till we sort of play those teams to see where we're at?
Yeah, I think we're going to wait. I mean, when I look at the Brisbane comparison, just further to the comment I just made, when you look at our senior guys, Murphy, Simo, Daisy, Crusoe, when he's back, and you look at Brisbane, you got Hodgie back there, you got Lockie Neal, who's a super, super player. They get a little bit more from their senior guys who can carry the load when things get a little bit tough for the youngsters. And the Gold Coast, I've watched all their games, the Gold Coast Suns, I should say. Look, they just play with similar to last year, the first 3 or 4 rounds, they played with a really solid intensity, and particularly in their forward half as well. They got the likes of Jack Martin, Alex Sexton, who started pretty well. But, I mean, having said that with the Gold Coast Suns, they still have patches where they dip in and out and, you know, we'll probably get to it later in the show, but that's going to be our opportunity this week. When momentum comes our way, can we make the most of it?
Definitely. Okay, we got another guest who is joining us and is waiting in the lobby, and we'll just bring him on now, which is, as I said, a pretty cool innovation. We're able to do this with modern technology. It's even cooler that I'm actually able to work out this modern technology. And our guest will be joining us in a second is none other than Dan Williams.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
How are you going this evening?
Oh, you know, can't complain. Cup of tea here.
Okay, well, you've just ruled yourself out from the rest of the evening. We gave you 3 criteria. You've got 2 of those on. You've got clothes on. You've got a webcam, and you've got a microphone. But I don't know about the cup of tea, unless it's got
a good
some,
strong English tea is better than any alcohol you drink.
Well, that's a good point. Okay, thanks for joining us, Dan. Maybe we'll just start off by asking you to introduce yourself to the audience. Obviously, you're a Carlton man, and tell us a bit about your journey, if you may, in regards to your supporting of Carlton. Obviously, you've got a bit of an accent, a French accent there, so I'll be interested to hear what you've
Well,
come
I would be
across.
French if they could fight, but fortunately, that's not possible. But I moved over here about 12 years ago. Met a lovely Australian girl, and part of the agreement from her dad, who's obviously an Australian like her, was support Carlton if you're a Pom. So broke his heart. She married a Pom, but you gained a follower forever.
Oh, no, that's very good. And so how long have you been in Australia for?
Be 12 years Christmas. I was a surprise for my brother when he was here. So,
okay. So you just didn't marry an Australian girl for a visa. That's good to hear.
Well, we never know, do we?
There's still time.
Immigration might be listening, so we can't risk it.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate you joining us. For people that don't know Dan, he's a really passionate Carlton guy. He writes on Carlton in a few different forums and on a few different Facebook sites. Loves his footy. He's got a really good sense of humour. It's unfortunate that he's got an accent, but he's also a technology whiz. Where did that little montage come up from? That's a bit highbrow for our page, mate. Those selection graphics.
Well, I was actually writing about the vegan standoff in the Melbourne CBD. So I told my boss that I was hot on an interview case and spent 10 minutes making that. So if you're watching, Sam, I'm really sorry. So, but yeah. So I put the works resources to good use. So
very good. Okay, Dan. So just quickly, how have you seen the first 3 weeks? And is it panic stations just yet? What do we need to do to start getting a result?
I think it's hard this year, especially from last year, because last year was so painful. It was hard work watching Carlton, and this year we're kind of being teased with what's happening. We have these glimpses of pure, brilliant football, and then you watch the other teams and you're like, we can beat these teams. If we play that second quarter like we did against Port, if we play that third quarter against Richmond, we can beat teams. But then we have that first quarter against Richmond, the third quarter against Sydney, and you're like, where are we as a team? For me, I think personally we have to be brave and be really industrious with our play. I want to see the players make mistakes, but I don't want to see the players keep trying the same things that give the same results. My father used to tell me the definition of an idiot is trying the same things and expecting a different result. And when you've got Cade Simpson chipping it back to a contest of 3-on-1 people at centre half back, when you've got kicking it down the wing to a 1-in-3 contest and turning it over, for me, you've got huge issues that we keep trying the same things that aren't working.
Yeah, no, you definitely make a good point. I think you're alluding to the fact that it's probably not panic station just yet, but a few little tweaks here and there and a bit more consistency from the group across not only just the group, but in terms of through the games. For me personally, I think that, if we can do that, we'll see a result. And, once we get that result, it might open the floodgates, John, in terms of, getting some consistency.
Yeah, absolutely great. I don't think we're that far off. It's just putting four quarters together, and we could come out with some really impressive wins.
I think we need that. Do you remember last year, Brisbane? At the moment, it reminds me of Brisbane Lions last year, and we're in the games, just not quite there. And I think we need that Hawthorn game they had where they fell over the line, where they fell over to victory. We need to kind of play badly and still win. I think we're our own worst enemy. It seems our bad quarter comes when we're on top.
Yeah, I think all three. Well, apart from the Richmond game where it was first quarter, but the other two games for sure we're on top and then had a bad quarter, and you just wonder where it comes from.
Well, I think when you watch the Richmond game, the first 10 minutes we were all over them. We had 12 entries inside 50. We just couldn't get it in the goalposts. And I think it's little things like that. If we kicked 2 goals against Richmond in the first 5 minutes, probably would have had momentum on our side. It seems them little 50-50 decisions aren't going with us at the moment.
Yeah, but you put it on the scoreboard, you're right, in those, first 10 minutes against Richmond, and, it becomes a whole different game, becomes a whole different contest.
Oh, there's definitely nothing like scoreboard pressure, that's for sure, especially with Carlton. Let's get to some of our valued viewers, and we appreciate you joining us on this chilly Tuesday evening. Matt Ormer, good evening, Matt. How are you? Johnny Rowe, can I have your cap, please?
Absolutely not. From my first game of football as a kid.
I remember that story. You've told it well, Johnny, and definitely hold on top of that. And Matt bucks. John Austin says the team needs time. Some supporters don't agree with you. They think we've had about 100 years of time. But yeah, where we are now, I think I think it's not too far off having a win, and hopefully that'll be this weekend. Clinton Bart McRae says, has there been any difference to the way we played since Walls arrived? Do you think that he's done anything or contributed anything, Terry, that you can noticeably see?
No, I don't think that was ever going to be the case, though. I think he was just more there to be just a sounding board for Bolts. Obviously, Wolsey's been in and around the industry for decades, and I think that's more so what his role is as opposed to on game day coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not his role.
That's true. Dane Rawlings says, so far this year we've played Richmond, Port Adelaide and Sydney. Gold Coast have played St Kilda, Freo and Western Bulldogs. And in terms of their ladder positions and their places last year, our opposition has been far superior. So that's probably a pretty good point too, Dan.
Yeah,
I think Dane hit the nail on the head. I mean, Port looked phenomenal against us, and they looked pretty good last week. So, and Richmond, well, we know what Richmond are like at the G. Sydney, I think, is the hard one though, because they looked horrible round 1 and 2, and I think that was a game that really we should have won. But I agree with Dane. Apart from St Kilda, my wife will kill me if I slate St Kilda.
Well, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not hard to do that. You just look at their premiership cabinet, and that's all you need to say.
You just need to watch him.
Okie dokie. Cameron Dominic Thorne. Good on you, Cameron. Really appreciate you joining us. Who do you guys think will be the best inclusions next year via trade, development, or within our own list? That's a really good question, Cameron. And to answer that really good question, I'll start off with John because he's all over that.
So is that 2020 he's talking about, Cameron? Who's the best player we're going to get in?
Yes. That would be next year. Sorry, say that again?
Stephen Caniglio.
Okay, that was easy. Terry, what do you reckon? Who do we need? Would be the best inclusion for us next year?
Yeah, Steve Caniglio is my boy. I haven't quite thought of the player, but I'd love a mid-sized forward who can also put like a De Goey, a Dustin Martin type. I'd love one of them. Don't know who it is quite right this very second, but yeah, one of the two.
Dan, Stephen Caniglio for you?
Lockie Whitfield for me. A little bit of zip and creativity off the halfback flank. I think he's playing phenomenally.
We've got 23 of those players.
Not as good as Whitfield, mate.
They will be. He's had 7 years.
Oh, he's a beautiful player. Beautiful. That guy can deliver me a sandwich anytime with his right peg.
Yeah, for me, it's a very good question, Cameron, and a good debate to have. It's going to be interesting to see what pops up around trade time. Andrew Lake's nominated Tom Williamson. Like he's a player that came out of the box at pick 65 for us. That really added some skill, some run and drive and carry off that halfback. We've missed him. Really looking forward to getting him back in a couple of weeks. Word is his back's all fixed up now, so hopefully he can be part of our side. And there's some other players too, like we've mentioned, that are still waiting in the wings to be able to play as well, which is hopefully going to put some pressure on our starting 22.
Well, Tom Williamson's TAFE Lockie Whitfield, isn't he, when he's fit? Use the word loosely. I like Tom Williamson. Solid player.
Yeah, look, I think there's some money in the bank to still go after that kind of player. We didn't waste any money on old mate from Essendon now, so that's we've got some coin in the bank. And
his name anyway.
Sorry, say that again.
I said I've forgotten his name anyway.
Yeah, Dylan something or other. That's
Dylan
the one. That's the one.
Something to do with Shield being spelt wrong.
Something like that. Okay, let's get into this week's game, and we've got a full panel of experts. joining us, and so let's have a chat about that. Give us your opinion to our viewers on our ins and outs. It's going to be another sort of contentious, I suppose, discussion point on the selection table this week. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. John, you've haven't been performing too well in terms of the selection table marrying up with what's actually happened, other than bringing Lobe in, which is a bit of a luck on your part from Phillips being injured.
Well, to be honest, I've got it right and they've got it wrong the past 2 weeks.
Well, you've got a fair point, given the fact that we haven't won a game, so you've got a fair point to argue there.
Yeah, look, I think what has happened over the last 3 weeks, and this is something I put on the agenda as well, is that our forward line structure is getting closer and closer to getting solved. I think Ed having such a great game and being able to add that big body and presence down there, and Mark Murphy also looking completely dangerous down there. Perhaps they now are our 2 small forwards, and we have guys like Gibbons and Paulson who just get a run in the 2s now and try to improve their game and get better and better and better. We've got those players that we need down there now. So I'd be bringing in midfielders and have as many run through the guts as possible. So if as soon as Cunningham's fit, he comes back in. Kennedy comes back in. Like I said, I want that wall there of the 3 big players, the 2 rare big inside bodies, and then Setterfield can do both, and then have our smaller players like SPS and Fisher on the outside delivering the ball, but also going inside when they need to. I think Lob will come out for Cruiser. The 2 small forwards, which I mentioned, will come out. And, yeah, that's about all I've got for changes this week. Depends on the McGovern too, how he comes up.
That's some of your best stuff there, mate, and I 100% agree with you in relation to some more time down there with Ed and Murph. That class, that ability to know where to run, and the positioning is going to be invaluable. Murphy just playing out of a forward pocket, half forward, can play for a couple more years. Ed's, we know how skillful and hard at the ball he is, and if he can translate that into goals, which he's showed a bit certainly last week, and reinvent himself, that's going to be really, really important for us. So I really like your take on that. I'm thinking that Daisy may have a future down in the forward line as well. I think he might be getting a bit long in the tooth to try and run off half back and his defensive game might be a little bit lacking, but I think he's got an opportunity we should be trying him up forward. But before we get into my ins and outs, we might have a chat to Terry on what he thinks should be the matchups and the ins and outs for the Gold Coast game.
Yeah, there's a few variables because I don't know if Mitch is going to play, and Cruiser played 40 minutes in an intra-club match in the 2. So is that enough to put him in the side? I wouldn't have thought so, given his injury history and this clear plan that we have to get him back into the side. For me personally, I'd be taking out Lockie O'Brien, and I'd be taking out one of Gibbons or Paulson, and I'd be bringing in Matt Kennedy. And is Cunningham ready? Is he ready to play this week, or is he still a week away?
Another week. They're still unsure, but not for this week.
Okay. That's an interesting one. I forgot about that. Look, if Miss doesn't come up, then there's the possibility of putting Paddy Kerr in. But yeah, I think one of Gibbons and Paulson has to go, and I think Lockie O'Brien as well. And I want to see Kennedy in the side this week personally.
Over to you, Dan, live from London.
Live from London, yeah. I'm going to go with what will Bolton do, not with what does Dan want to do. I think Cruz is going to come in. Witts has been in inspired form, absolute terrific. So I think Cruz has got to come in and fight Witts. I reckon you'll see Paulson out, and knowing Bolton, he'll bring Fasolo in. And Lockie O'Brien only ever plays one game, then gets dropped. So I reckon he's out and Kennedy's in. So I reckon that'll be the team. They'll be the 3 ins. And McGovern, questionable. I'd like him not to play. He's got hammy issues all of his career. Let's not risk him against Gold Coast. Give Kerr a go. Even Casbolt. There, I said it.
Yep, no, all good, interesting points there. For me, look, same thing. Do they play Cruz? It's a very hard one. They brought March back straight back in. He's probably had more fitness opportunities than Cruz. Look, I think they'll probably roll the dice with Cruz. We need to get him in the side. If they're gonna play, and they might as well play him in the seniors. Is my take on that. I think they'll still have Casbolt there as that second ruck option, regardless of whether Mitch McGovern comes in or out. Sorry, comes out. So I think he'll get another gig. For me, Kennedy has to come in. You know, they've invested too much time and effort into Kennedy. We really need him to come in and play. So I think he is an in. And I think that another in will be JSOS to have a crack and maybe just mix things up with his versatility and maybe have him have a run on the ball as well if he can get an opportunity in there. So for me, those are the ins, and I think O'Brien will be out. I think Gibbons, unfortunately, has had his chance, hasn't kicked a goal at all since coming into the team. Cam Paulson, I think, is out. You know, those guys, like we've already mentioned, hardly any tackles between them. It's just not on. So they're my ins and outs for this week's game against Gold Coast, and I think it might be a little bit showery too, which is disappointing.
I think it is actually.
Sorry, Terry, what was that?
No, not me.
So everyone was agreeing with me then. That's good. Finally, you've got some consensus.
Can I just throw a question out there to the three beautiful guys of the panel?
Go for it.
Did anyone see the pre-game press conference from Bolton?
No, I was at the ground, so I didn't see it. No,
it was just before the teams were announced. He did a press conference.
What did he say?
Because let me get it. Yeah,
mate, if you're going to come on the show, we need you to be ready to go rock and roll. We don't need any referring to. This is unrehearsed.
His exact words were that he was asked the question, will Kerner affect your team lineup this week? Who's coming in? And he said, the Marvel Stadium is notoriously a fast deck. If we look at teams that are successful there, predominantly they play a little bit smaller and a little bit quicker. He then went on to say that Sydney's game plan is well known, that they slug the ground up and keep it contested. Does anyone find it quite weird that he knew how Sydney would play, knew the history of playing on a fast deck, that we picked Casbolt, who's the slowest full forward since Giraffes, and Lockie O'Brien, who's basically a Ferrari with no wheels? It was just a weird thing when Bam Bam had 30 possessions, 20 contested. To me, that was an obvious in. I understand Casbolt, we need him, but Kennedy, I just feel that was a weird selection when he said it pre-game how to beat Sydney. For me, that was quite a weird thing.
I think he backed himself in by picking O'Brien in that case, because if he said you need a smaller team, that's why he brings in Lockie O'Brien. Simple as that for me. If we're playing at the SCG, then you bring in Kennedy. But the selection wasn't such a disgrace for me. I mean, the theory was what you just said, and he backed us in with the selection. He backed his theory in and how we're going to beat them. Rather than playing them at their own game, let's play a smaller team, a quicker team, and try and expose them there. It just obviously didn't eventuate.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Terry. John, what do you reckon about that?
I can see both points there, because I'm just so passionate about how we needed to play bigger bodies against Sydney. That doesn't matter if we're playing, Marvel, MCG, SCG, or on the fucking moon. We need to play those big bodies against Sydney. Lockie O'Brien was only going to benefit if we were able to get the ball out, which we weren't. So I can see your point, though, Terry, a faster deck, and they thought O'Brien would come in. Yeah.
It was just for me, round two, we got absolutely peppered from contested ball by a team that's not known for their contested work in Port Adelaide. So for me...
And we only lost the contested possessions by 4, so I don't know if it's so lopsided as what we're sort of talking about here.
No, but Sydney are by far a superior contested team, by far a superior contested team than Port.
The stats don't tell the story either. It's the contest. It's winning the contest to advantage. Sydney gets so well with.
Look, I think what you've all got some really good points. I think, especially Terry, what you're saying about the idea and the concept of what they wanted to achieve was there with playing those kind of players, like the Paulson and the O'Briens having that run. They just didn't. They just didn't do what they needed to do, and that was apply pressure and get scores on the board. So, Bolton backed in our midfield against theirs. And
he had 6 possessions, didn't he? So, I mean, it's like, for me, he always does that. He's always around the 10, 11 possession mark. So, to me, it's all right being fast, but he's hardly in danger of contracting leather poisoning.
Good point. Let's go to our viewers and their thoughts on the selections for this week. Clinton Bart McRae says Kennedy, Cripper and Walshy contested ball winners. A joke. Bam Bam didn't get picked last week. Could have been the difference.
He's on the Christmas list.
O'Brien, 2 possessions to half-time, so definitely selection backfire. Cameron Dominic Thorne says, I'll give Stocker a go. Gold Coast is one of the only teams will be confident in bringing him in. Limited threats in the forward line and would get him a game without the pressure of having to defend someone like Rioli. Don't know about Stocker. I think, I don't think we're at a point now we're just gifting games to a player just for the sake of it. We need to pick our best team. I hope Stocker gets a run, and I hope that he earns his run through the twos. But I don't think giving him a go. Chris Humbert says Trevor waiting for
not yet. He's got so much fitness work left to do to get over injury and then get up to AFL standard of having a tank. Later in the season, he'll get a go.
That's it. Anthony Walsh says Lobby still remains in for his 100th. Yeah, look, I would pick Cruz. I think I picked. He didn't do enough. He had a chance to come in. I think Cruz. We need Cruz back. John Austin says, "Bring in Kennedy, please." Brent, I'm going to struggle here. Brendan O'Munenchiane. Is brewed kidneys actually a thing, or is Cunningham soft? Can play and would love to see him out there. Don't think that he'd be out if he wasn't out for a legitimate reason. Bruised kidneys is definitely a thing. Just ask my cat if it gets in my way around my house.
To go further on that point, Brendan, actually Cunningham wanted to play and the doctors held him back.
Okie dokie. Heath Buck, thank you for that insight there, John. Heath Buck says Garlett wasn't terrible as a defender and might just return as a forward. Someone we haven't mentioned this week as a forgotten soul, probably maybe a bit stiff in hindsight to get dropped. Was doing okay, but would you bring him in as a forward, Dan?
He's a tough one, Garlett, because he shows signs of it and then he shows nothing. He's a tough. I didn't mind him at halfback flank. He got there. He spoiled a little bit of zip, but I think he's a little bit too late now for us to be trialing new positions for new players. For me,
give him a crack up forward, Terry.
No, thanks.
John?
No.
Hopefully,
I don't think it's all over for him either. I think he just needs to go back to the twos and get his disposal efficiency up to 70, 80%, and show that run and dash off half back, and he'll be in. He'll get another go, but he's got to hit those targets. He can't, you can't play AFL at 40% disposal efficiency. It's just not possible. You turn the ball over in a
At Carlton, he can. That's going well. He's right up there in our top 2% then.
Harsh.
Look, Look, I like him. I like him more as a forward. Actually, that's pretty much been his position over his career, as far as I can remember. I like him as a forward in a team that needs to kick goals. It'd be nice to have that goal scoring power again. It's just fact is, it's just on paper they're looking good. Out on the grass, they're just not delivering some of these players, and we need, especially in our group, we need 22 contributors, not 16, 17, which is maybe another reason why we haven't got results as yet, because we just haven't had the consistency. Hence the reason to have that selection of, if you're not performing, it's not give you a couple of chances. It's if you're performing in the twos, get in there. Give these players who are performing spots, and that I think might give an idea when it's in the back of their mind that if they're not running hard enough and they're not tackling enough, that they're going to be out. We will probably see that again through players like Evans not getting the chop this week.
And Ricky Spencer, Garlic can kick. He's an extraordinary kick. He just needs to be able to do it at AFL level, and then he will take off.
Yep, and a bit of composure as well.
Yeah.
Jason Blake makes a good point, and he's also part of a good group in Bound by Blue. If you need to get on a good Facebook group, a good bunch of people there, keep in mind, boys, and this is something we mentioned earlier, that it's not all doom and gloom, and there's some sliding door moments in games that maybe can change it for us. Especially in the last two games, Dow kicks 3, H kicks 1 or 2 goals. We win the game, and keep those things in mind when we're all calling for heads and list changes and the coach to be sacked. That it's there's opposition out there that are performing better than us at the moment, and there's some opportunities we've missed that we've come okay, and there's definitely improvement in our side.
That's a great point. I mean, in that first quarter, Dow kicks his easy one, H kicks his easy one, and Swans miss a couple. It's a completely different game.
100%. Okay, fellas, let's get into the game against the Gold Coast. We talked about it last week as being a good opportunity, but the supporters want some results. We want 4 points. We want to win. We want to hear the song, and we're basically begging for a win. And this is really a really good chance to have a good win. And the time is now. Dan, what do you reckon? Can we win this one, and how do we do it?
Was that to me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Am I speaking a different language, or are my accents not coming through that well?
It sounded like you said "t," and I thought it was either Terry or myself. So I think we've got a great chance. Very young side, a lot of inexperience in Gold Coast like Carlton. So it's a real chance against a team that's played very well and been in tight matches as well and got over the line to show what we're made of. It's going to be a real war of attrition. I think we've just got to really focus on holding the ball and playing our brand of football, and I think Carlton by 22.
Good assessment. Over to you, my makeup and lighting expert from Israel.
Yeah, I'm really buoyant about this week. I know that I say that every week, but this is probably the last week I go into around thinking, we're genuinely going to win. I think we're a better side than the Gold Coast Tons. I know that we play them up there, and that's a challenge. I think we're in a bit of a letdown spot. Obviously, 2-1. No one's given them any attention. They've got that now. I think we're a lot more desperate for a win than what they obviously are. The thing that worries me with them is their forward pressure is really good. Sexton, Martin, even David Swallow when he gets there, they're solid contributors. But having said that, if you look at the game we played last year, and they didn't have Tom Lynch, so it's a small sample size, but it's still, playing against the Suns without Lynch and at Metricon. They had nothing for Cripps. Murphy was incredible, and obviously it was a bit of a grind as well. But if we come out and just play a tough brand, match them with the physicality, I can seriously see us getting it done this week by 11.
And your margin, Terry?
11.
Thank you very much, Terry. And Terry Degani joined by our major sponsor in Hyundai. Thank you very much, Hyundai. And really appreciate all your contribution to the show. Fantastic work. Just before we get on to John, we'll wrap up the show after John and my selection. I would love to hear from you about your thoughts on the weekend. What do you think the result will be? How do you think we will win it? What will be the difference? So feel free to put those comments out there. Before we get on to your selection and thoughts on the game, John, is it an Armageddon game? Should we be concerned about what happens if we lose? Is there going to be lots of focus on it? You know, is that mindset going to worry the team? Are they going to play scared footy about losing? I know there's about 20,000 questions wrapped up into there, but you should know me well enough by now to be able to answer all of those in one quick sentence.
No.
I forgot what I asked as well, so that's a good answer.
It's not Armageddon. It's nothing dramatic. You know, we just need to get it together for 4 quarters. It doesn't matter which team that we play. As soon as we do, we're going to win a game. If it happens to be the Gold Coast, we'll beat them, and we'll beat them soundly. I'll pick us by 6 to 7 goals.
6 to 7 goals. Well, that'll be fantastic. Let us know, ladies and gentlemen, and any kids watching. It's past your bedtime. Go to bed, kids. Are you going to the Gold Coast? Let us know if you're up there for a cheeky weekend away, or a cheeky boys weekend, a cheeky girls weekend, or a cheeky boys and girls weekend. It'd be cool to go up to the Gold Coast. Dan, you heading up to the Gold Coast?
No, I'm not. No, I will be watching it with the boys this weekend, my 2 little ones.
Terry, just doing a quick flyover in the private jet to the Gold Coast from Tel Aviv, mate?
Oh, not quite, mate. 6:40 a.m. start Sunday morning.
Okay, and have you got a game this week? Another game for the Dragons?
Nah, the Cheetahs have cowered away, so we'll hopefully get them later in the year.
Okay, fantastic. I'm unfortunately not going to the Gold Coast, but if anyone wants to take me up there on an all-expenses paid weekend, I'll be happy to oblige. You'll get my wit, entertainment and humour, and it'll be a fun weekend away. Just ask a few of my mates who likes to go away with me on trips away. Okay, we've got a few last-minute questions. Muhammad Al-Wali, can someone explain what Bolton's game plan is? Unfortunately not, because we don't know. But if you look at the Carlton live Facebook page and scroll down, you'll see a written example of it. I've tried to do it in written form because I can't do it in verbal form. Have a look there and you'll be able to get a quick understanding of what the game plan is. A couple of questions before we go. Comments, how good's Newman been? Loving the bloke. Yes, very good, fantastic. Would be good to have him and Doc together. That's true. Ben Bromley says 6 or 7 goals or 67 goals. Was that was to you, John? 67 goals or 6 or 7 goals?
I think that really speaks for itself, doesn't it?
There's a joke I'll tell you about something like that maybe next week. Clinton Bark McRae says 27 points. Look, I think they might play Charlie this week too. So I think he's young and fit, so I think he'll sneak in as well. If Charlie comes in, it's going to be a really interesting selection. Probably Casbolt will go out. I think Cruz comes in, like I've already said. So keep an eye on that space. Yeah, I think that I think we'll win, and I think we'll win by 5 goals.
Ash's brothers just joined chat.
Sorry, mate.
I said Basher Hooley's brothers just joined chat.
Okay.
So
Mohammed Hooley, you blokes have cooked. Yes, if you're just joining us, I've drank 4 or 5 Jack Daniels. John's on his 6th or 7th James Bogue. Terry Degani's on some unfiltered Israeli water, so he could get anything. And Dan Williams drinks tea, and that just says it all. Will we kick 100 points as the final comment to all of our guests here? Dan, in one word, will we kick 100 points?
Well over. 2
Terry?
words.
No.
John?
Yes.
Okay. 100 let's aim for that 100 points. If we do, we win, which I think we'll do anyway. We're going to leave you. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Really appreciate our guest tonight, Dan Williams, for his first appearance on the show. Thank you very much, Dan. Terry DeGarni, as always, fantastic contribution. Thanks to Hyundai, his satellite sponsor tonight. John Rowe, what can I say about you, John? Fantastic as ever. Some really insightful stuff, and we hope to get the whiteboard out next week.
Wow. We played each other in the Supercoach League, so he just got me with Sam Walsh, 20 points, broke my heart.
Wow.
Your emergency killed me.
Well, if you guys want to stay online a bit longer for the satellite feed, that's no problems. But we'll have to get going. For this evening, we'll be back again on Tuesday night. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us and looking at our page, Carlton Live. We really appreciate that. Terry, John, and Dan, good evening, and good evening to everyone. Have a good night, and go Blues.
Go Blues.
Good evening.